Welcome back to Philosophy Unpacked. Today, we're diving into one of Nietzsche's most evocative concepts from Thus Spake Zarathustra, the spirit of gravity.
The spirit of gravity. That sounds heavy, literally. What's the core idea here?
It is, and Nietzsche sets himself up as its ultimate opponent. He starts by describing his own nature in a series of really vivid, almost rustic metaphors.
How so? What kind of metaphors does he use?
Well, he says his way of speaking is too coarse for Angora rabbits, meaning he's not for delicate, refined sensibilities. He speaks directly, from the people.
Okay, so he's not an academic writing for other academics. He sees himself as more grounded.
Exactly. He says his hand is a fool's hand for scrawling and sketching, not for careful, precise writing. His foot is a horse foot, always moving, running, and trampling.
So there's this sense of wild, untamed energy about him.
Precisely. And he even says his stomach is like an eagle's, preferring simple, innocent things. All of this culminates in one central idea. He has a bird nature.
A bird nature? Meaning he feels light, ready to fly?
Yes, that's the key. He feels an impulse to fly away. And because of this, he is deadly hostile, supremely hostile, to this thing he calls the spirit of gravity.
So the spirit of gravity is whatever holds him down, whatever opposes that bird-like lightness.
You've got it. It's the force of tradition, of conventional morality, of anything that weighs down the human spirit and prevents it from soaring.
And he says he's going to sing a song about this hostility, even if no one is listening.
Right. He's not a performer who needs an audience. His conviction is internal. This sets the stage for the whole chapter.
So let's talk more about this spirit of gravity. What does it actually represent in our lives?
Nietzsche sees it as the force that makes life and the world feel heavy, like a burden. It's the voice that tells us things are difficult and unchangeable.
He uses an interesting analogy with an ostrich, right?
He does. He says the ostrich runs faster than a horse, but it still shoves its head into the heavy earth.
So it has the potential for speed and flight, but it remains tethered to the ground, to the heaviness.
Exactly. That's his image for the person who cannot yet fly, who is still dominated by the spirit of gravity. They have potential, but they're weighed down.
And he says that to overcome this, to become light and be a bird, you must do what?
You must love yourself. This is the absolute core of the argument.
Self-love. That's a concept we hear a lot about today. But I have a feeling Nietzsche means something very specific by it.
He does. He's very careful to distinguish it. He says it's not the love of the sick and infected, where even self-love stinks.
What does he mean by that? The love of the sick?
He's likely referring to a narcissistic, weak, or resentful kind of self-love, the kind that's a compensation for insecurity.
So what is the healthy version he's teaching?
He calls it a wholesome and healthy love. It's the kind of self-love that allows you to endure being with yourself, to be comfortable in your own skin.
So you don't feel the need to constantly be roving about.
Exactly. He's critical of people who can't stand to be alone with themselves and disguise this restlessness as brotherly love.
That's a sharp critique. He's saying that a lot of what we call altruism or social connection is actually just an escape from ourselves.
Yes, he calls it the best lying and dissembling. He argues that true self-love is an art, the finest, subtlest, and most patient art of all.
Why is it so difficult to learn?
Because, as he puts it, the spirit of gravity works against it from the very beginning. Our own treasure pit, our own self, is the very last one we learn to excavate.
So something is actively preventing us from accessing ourselves.
Yes, he says almost from the cradle, we're given heavy words and worths, specifically the concepts of good and evil.
He calls this our dowry, and for that sake, we are forgiven for living. That's a heavy statement.
It is. He's saying that society gives us a pre-packaged moral code, and by accepting it, we justify our existence. But it's a burden.
And this is how the spirit of gravity forbids children from loving themselves betimes, or early on.
Precisely. We are taught to look outside of ourselves for our values, for what is good and evil, and we carry these values on our shoulders like a heavy load.
This is where the camel metaphor comes in, right? The load-bearing animal?
Yes, he says man is only hard to bear because he carries too many extraneous things on his shoulders. He kneels down like a camel and lets himself be well laden.
Especially the strong person, the one who is reverent and wants to do the right thing.
Exactly. The strong, dutiful person loads themselves up with these external, heavy words and values, and then life starts to feel like a desert.
So the spirit of gravity isn't just an abstract force. It's the weight of inherited, universal morality.
That's a perfect summary. It's the idea that there's a good for all and an evil for all.
But he also says that some things within us are hard to bear too. He uses the oyster metaphor.
Right. He acknowledges that our inner selves can be repulsive and slippery and hard to grasp.
Like an oyster. So what do?
He says we must learn the art of having a shell, a fine appearance, and sagacious blindness.
Sagacious blindness? Wise blindness? What does that mean?
It means knowing what to show the world and what to keep hidden. It's a form of self-protection and presentation. Not everything inside is meant for public display.
But he also warns that the shell can be misleading, right? That a poor shell can hide great value.
Yes, he says the choicest dainties find no tasters. There's so much concealed goodness and power that is never discovered because the exterior isn't appealing.
Man is difficult to discover and most difficult to himself.
That's the crux of it. The spirit of gravity and our own complex nature makes self-discovery the ultimate challenge.
So how does one break free? How do you discover yourself?
The breakthrough comes when a person can finally say, this is my good and evil.
Not the good and evil, but my good and evil.
Exactly. In doing so, you silence what he calls the mole and the dwarf, who are always whispering, good for all, evil for all.
You reject universal morality and create your own values.
Yes. This is why he says he dislikes the all-satisfied people, those who call everything good and this world the best.
Because that's not a discerning taste, it's just accepting everything.
Right. He says to chew and digest everything is the genuine swine nature. He honors the refractory, fastidious tongues that have learned to say I, yea, and nay.
The ability to choose, to affirm, and to reject based on your own taste.
And his own taste is for passion, for intensity. Deep yellow and hot red, he says. It mixeth blood with all colors. He loves life, flesh, and blood.
And he rejects anything that seems lifeless or parasitic.
Completely. Mummies, phantoms, and especially lickspittles and parasites, those who would live by love but not love in return.
So after rejecting all this, what is the path forward? How does one learn to fly?
This is one of the most famous parts. He says, he who wisheth one day to fly must first learn standing, walking, and running, and climbing, and dancing.
You don't just jump into the air and hope for the best.
Not at all. One doth not fly into flying. It's a process. It's a gradual strengthening.
So all these actions, standing, walking, dancing, they are metaphors for developing the self?
Yes, for developing the strength, balance, and discipline required for true spiritual freedom. He says he learned to wait, but only for himself. He learned to climb.
He talks about climbing high mass and sitting there like a small flame. What does that signify?
It's a state of high perception, of seeing things from a new vantage point. Even if it's just a small light, it's a comfort and a guide for others who are lost.
And he stresses that he didn't get there by one single path.
No, he says he arrived at his truth by diverse ways and wendings. He never just asked for the way. He questioned and tested the ways themselves.
So the journey itself, the process of questioning, is the point.
It is. And this all leads to his powerful conclusion. When people ask him for the way, he gives a now famous answer.
Which is?
This is now my way. Where is yours? For the way, it doth not exist.